All right, we're going to talk about intake valves now. When we're dealing with these small valve heads, 69 and earlier, I don't have, wait, maybe I do have a real Harley one here. Maybe I do. Well, I don't think I really need it for what we're doing here. Yeah, this is a real Harley. No, it's not either. Yeah, it is. Okay. The problem with these dash 58 intakes, now 57 is zone private Idaho. Where the hell's my pointy? Got it? Thank you, Robert. Okay. The problem with these, this is just a used old valve, got nothing to do with the job we're doing, but it shows pretty well. You see how skinny this margin is?
Yes.
All right? There's not a lot of meat between the valve seat and the valve head.
Yep.
There's really not enough meat for you. I could possibly get in there and try to grind a new seat on this in the valve grinder. In the valve grinder. But generally speaking, for the $10 the valves cost, it's just easier and more safe to replace them. Now, this valve that you're looking at here is the larger intake valve that was used from 1970 to 1985. And if you look close, maybe I can show both of them. See how wide this margin is? Plenty of room. There's plenty of room for me to put this thing up in a valve machine. Let go.
You let go.
I can't
let go. My ears. I've been trying to let go for 50 something.
Yeah. Just can't get away.
Oh, you can't.
It's like Papillon. He escapes 16 times and never gets away.
It's like drive by Hoovers and not pulling in.
Until the very end when the evils come out. All right, so as you can see, these early valves, there's not a lot of meat on them to regrind them. And the problem is that if somebody's been in the head previously, I mean, I can pull this off if nobody's been in the head. But when they get in the head and they start screwing up, going back over here, they start screwing up the seat area. It makes it pretty difficult for me to be able to do what I got to do.
Understood.
Well, it's not really that understood because I didn't really explain that. But because these valves, these valves are so skinny here that why even deal with grinding them? Just buy another $20 set of valves.
Yeah.
Which is what we did. We got on eBay and we did what everybody else does. And we bought these valves. And as anybody who's been around these antique bikes for long enough knows that a lot of crap that shows up on eBay is the same crap that used to show up at the flea markets.
Yep, I see what you're showing there.
All right. These are the two valves that came out of the two boxes. This one I messed with. This is how this one came out. Now, you can see this one's shiny and this one's not. So take the not shiny guy and measure it. 310. 310. Oh, the other one was much bigger.
The other one was like 311.
Yeah, the other one was much bigger. Okay. Well, we're going
to take with my phone.
Well, all right. So now what's going on? All right. Now hang on right there. This is when I polished with some Scotch-Brite up in the lathe. 39.5. 39. 39.5. Up here where it doesn't really matter, almost 310 because I didn't polish that as much. So this is this 310 to 39, 0.310 thousandths, 0.309 thousandths is basically how all the Harley valves came. So what we're going to do is we're going to stick this one up in the lathe now. We'll show you that.
We're going to take a little bit off it with the Scotch.
Well, we're going to take off what appears to be some kind of excess buildup on this thing. I can't tell you exactly what's going on, but I can tell you that this thing is smooth as glass at this point. And this thing feels like a piece of 400 sandpaper, maybe 320. So come on over here. Let's turn the lathe on. See what we can do about this. Okay. So I'm going to gently grab this in the burr slots. The 6-inch chuck here. Ever so gentle. Fire the lathe up. Alright, so that looks pretty good. Now, somewhere I had a piece of Scotch-Brite. See if I can find it. This is a beat up old terrible piece of Scotch-Brite. This isn't even a real piece. But now if you look at that thing now, this thing is smooth. I don't know what all of that excess was. I don't know if it was in the fucking nitride for too long. 9.5. 9.5. 9.5. Right where we should be.
Perfect.
So apparently those valves were just what I thought. You guys got to be careful about this stuff with NOS stuff that's in boxes, either from the swap meets or from eBay. A lot of it was rejects, and it's still out there like that. Yeah, you can kill that. Okay, so I won't know how good this seat area, this valve is, until I do the valve job and see how this bad boy laps in there. So at least what it looks like is we've got a couple of valves now. I'm going to leave that. I think I better take that off of there, right? Yeah, we're going to... We got the same thing going on here.
The Lexus.
Yeah, we'll get it up there. We'll get it back up in the lathe. And we'll get that crap off of there. So it looks more like something that came out of there.
Gotcha.
Right. Well, you know, what's happened here is that the nitride's totally gone. Almost. I can see some little black areas. You know what the deal is? We got to get all this crap out of here so that the autofocus works right. That's what we're doing wrong, isn't it?
No, put it in the center of the camera. That might help too.
Oh, I don't know how to do that.
Right there. There. Look at that.
Oh, yeah, that's better. Okay. All right, I learned something today. Steve Jobs.
Yeah.
Harley held it here.
Yeah, okay.
Held it there.
All right, so, wait a minute. Let me think where we're at here. That's what we're doing with these valves because they're small valves. If they were the large valves, like the Dash 70 valves, or if we were deciding to put larger valves in this bike, which we could because we got the large valve pistons with the cutout in them.
Mm-hmm.
We use those. So we could put the larger valve in. I'll go back over the head because I already tried to do that. So here's the small valve. So there it's open and closed. And you can see it's got this step that the airflow's got to go around somehow. It's really not that far open until it gets about here.
Mm-hmm.
Because of this guy. Right around there. There's not a whole lot of difference in there. Now. You see that shiny line?
Yep.
This is the large valve. This is the Dash 70 valve.
Got it. Bigger.
Okay, it's that much bigger. So what I did is I dropped this in there. This is just an old used valve. And I took my little scriber and I scribed around that thing. And voila. If you notice, there's almost enough meat right here now to get a whole nother seat in there. As a matter of fact, I could probably pull it off. That's one way of saving these old heads. If this small valve job is really screwed up, you just ignore it, put the big valve in as long as you got the piston.
Yeah, the correct piston.
Correct piston to match it. Okay, now. Because the problem with the piston isn't necessarily, come on back over. The problem with the piston is not this. That's a good spot. It's this notch. That's where the valve's going to hit without having that notch in. Because on the standard piston, let's go back over to the bench. We got standard pistons over here. This is Harley Davidson. Notice no notch.
No notch.
No notch. These are the Dash 70 pistons.
Notch.
See that big giant notch in
Yeah,
there?
that's so you don't hit your valve. It's in there.
Maybe I should move to the middle of the camera. It's hard to see in there, but this whole area,
I can actually see pretty good in there.
you can.
Yeah.
All right.
If you stop moving the thing around into the
Well,
sun,
I'm trying to find the right spot. You.
Show him as he got the monkey's uncle.
All right, so anyhow, that's the deal. So sometimes you can save these things by putting the big valves. This is a stock 900, and I do believe that these bikes run better with the smaller valves in them than the larger valves. You get up around, when you get up around 1,000 cc's or maybe a 65-inch stroker, 64-inch stroker, I tend to want to use the larger intakes and leave the stock exhausts in there. Once you get up into the 70s, 70, 72, 74, 76 cubic inch, they do seem to work a little better with the full XLR setup, which is the 1 5/16 intake valves, which are the same size as the Dash 70s. 1 15/16, excuse me. These early ones are 1 13/16. The exhaust valves, we're using everything from the front head here. The stock exhaust valves are 1 9/16. There's also an 1 5/8 setup, which is the Dash 60R. And then there is an 1 3/4 setup, which is Dash 65R. For anything over like 70, 72 cubic inches, I basically go for the full gigantic valve setup, which is the 1 15/16 with the 1 3/4 exhausts. If you guys are running open pipes, you might want to be a little more conservative about the valve sizes, because especially small cubic inch bikes there'll be so much reversion that it's probably more of a detriment to go with bigger valves than it is with the smaller ones. Anyhow, this is a stocker, and these things just seem to run fine with the small valves. I don't even want to make them any bigger, so that's why we stuck with the small valve on this bike. And now that these junkers that we bought from eBay for $10 each or whatever the hell they were. What were they? $25 for a pair?
Something like that.
Yeah.
With the shipping.
Yeah. So we're going to see what's going to go on with that. I'm pretty happy about the way these things look. They definitely got some nitride on them, so I'm real good with that. The exhausts, I got, I don't know, probably a dozen sets of...
Manleys, right?
No, Dixie's out there. I mean, this is a stocker. Well, I put $100 valves in it, you know. I probably got, I think somewheres I bought like 2 dozens of these freaking things for like $20 at some flea market somewhere where a shop had closed, and they were like, this is all the stuff I got. And I was like, I'll buy those from you. So we'll stick the exact same thing that was in there again for the exhaust, although I know that I will not use those Dixie exhaust guides. We'll put in some softer iron ones, probably these things.
Got you.
All right. There's a couple of issues with these that we'll go over when I open them up that I'd like to be able to modify, but we'll deal with all of that. These intake guides. Let's see. This is a Kibble White. That's a Dixie in there. I wish I had one out. These things are pretty long. If we use these, which we might. No, that's an exhaust guide. Excuse me. There's the intake. Wow, they're still pretty freaking long. You notice how they don't fit? They got to be reamed.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we're gonna ream those when we put them in. That's what makes these things nicer. I can fit them myself. But what happens here is, shit, I wish I had a freaking standard guide out of the head. Standard Harley guide is only about this long. Doesn't have all of this. Now, depending on what you feel is most important to you, the longer the valve guide, obviously the longer life it's going to have. But something I've learned over the years, and I don't think I have a valve in here with it. Do I? I might. Well, most of this shit's been scraped off, but this gives you an idea. See all this crap?
Yep.
All right. This can get extreme on high mileage bikes. This stuff can get to be, Christ, about an 1/8 inch thick. So much so that it mimics the shape of this guy. And over the years, I've discovered that what causes that is this valve guide comes down too close like this, and the valve is closed. There's not enough washing action to wash whatever oil comes out of here or fuel and air goes in there. But if it only stops around here, like you can see here, there's much more washing action, and this buildup doesn't happen. So these short intake guides like this guy, they're much better on the long run as if you're concerned about how much crap is building up on your valve and what does that have to do with your airflow. If you're only concerned about getting maximum mileage out, don't shorten the guide. But understand that you're going to get a lot of crap in there, and after 60, 80,000 miles, you can start to have a performance decrease just because you don't have the airflow. That's that for the intakes. That's it for the valve. Yep.